This podcast is brought to you by sarahraven.com, which is home to everything you need for a truly beautiful and productive garden. You'll also find great and essential gardening kit and stylish, lovely things to have in your house to bring the outside indoors, all inspired by the garden and the house being tied together. There's also plenty of garden inspiration, how-to videos and specialist growing guides. So head over to sarahraven.com today to discover even more. Welcome to Grow Cookie to Range, the podcast of me, Sarah Raven, and Josie Lewis is here with me today, our head gardener at Perch Hill. And we have already done an episode on sort of October, November to kind of May pots, and our absolute 12 top favourite plants for that time of year, for the winter into spring. And now we're going to do from the spring to the winter. And so our absolute 12 best plants for summer into autumn containers. And it is really Josie's special subject. She's absolutely passionate about containers, and it was her who taught me the brilliant recipe that I wrote about in my pot book with Josie, which is in any container you want to try and think when you're designing. You want a thriller, which is the sort of amazing thing that you fall in love with and want to center your container on. You want a filler, which fills around it, hopefully in a kind of matching colour as much as possible. You then, in a tall pot, you want a pillar to give it scale, and we make lots of silver birch frames here to give it height. So that's your pillar. And then with either table centre pots or for pots that are massive, it's really nice to have a spiller that cascades out the side of the pot to make it less of a sort of between the material of the pot and the plants. It sort of softens the whole thing and gets that junction between organic and inorganic in a really, really good way. So thriller, filler, pillar, spiller. And that is entirely down to Josie. Hello, Josie.
Hello. Thank you for that.
She is the queen of pots, and we will talk about our maintenance regime as we go through. But Josie, why don't you kick off? In no particular order. There isn't a hierarchy of number one favourite to number six,
absolutely.
Least favourite. But what's your number one?
I'll start with a pillar then, which would be on a silver birch frame in one of our big pots. And that's Ipomoea lobata, known as the Spanish flag.
Yeah.
It does so well in pots, and it'll get to 2 meters.
Yeah.
So we'll grow it from seed in spring.
Yeah.
And
dead easy.
Yeah. And off it goes out into the pots in May time, once the frosts are over.
Yeah. Half-hardy.
Yeah. And so we'll have something planted in the centre underneath the pillar, which is usually a dahlia. And then we'll have a lovely spiller coming out as well. But the Ipomoea is particularly good. I mean, we had such a coldish summer last summer, but this summer was hot, wasn't it? And it did fabulously in both. Some of the other climbers struggled a bit.
Yeah.
But that one I noticed, whatever your summer is, it does really well.
It used to be called Minna lobata. I don't know why they reclassified it.
No.
But it's been reclassified with the sweet potato family, the Ipomoeas. Yeah, I agree. And we had it actually growing this year with a dahlia called Sparkle Octopus.
Yes.
And
in the Oast Garden.
In the Oast Garden. And I really did think it looked really superb. So they were in the same pot together. And Sparkle Octopus, or is it Octopus Sparkle? Can't remember which way around it is. Anyway, it just was a similar sort of quite delicate form, but a really amazing bright colour. And it was a really, really good combo put together by you or Rebecca, one of the gardeners. I'm not sure. Mine number one, so our number two, would without doubt be one of the Tidal Wave series petunias. And I do think it's sort of funny, but I do find the British gardener can have a tendency to be a little bit snobby and sort of anti-garden centre. And you and I always try and challenge that, which is if a plant is good, it's good.
Yeah.
And if it's in the garden centre or in a forecourt wrap of cut flowers in a garage, it's there for a reason. And so let's try it. So alströmerias, for instance, people love to be a bit snobby about those, but they are fantastic cut flowers because they have an extraordinary long vase life. So find a variety of an alströmeria that you like rather than reject them. And I'll come back to alstros in a minute. But also similarly with container plants, so-called bedding plants, petunias are widely available in every garden centre in May, but there are some exceptional varieties. And petunia tidal wave red velour, I would say, was one of my favourite plants this whole year, whether it be in a pot or not. I mean, it happens to be very happy in a pot, but it's superb. These velvet trumpets in the deepest crimson, absolutely stunning, extremely easy to grow, doesn't need deadheading that much. It's just so good. And it flowers from May until, well, certainly end of September or October.
Yeah, it's still going.
Yeah.
And it is a perennial. It's a half-hardy perennial, tender perennial. So you can keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
If it's in a small enough pot to move under cover, you can keep it going over winter.
Brilliant.
And you'll see it sometimes described as a climbing petunia. It's not a climbing petunia. It'll just push itself up. If you give it some sort of structure, it'll push itself up through the structure.
Yeah, and we had a silver one here too, didn't we?
Yes.
Which was also superb. And as you pointed out to me, I can't remember, in the shade it's white and in the sun it's blue, sort of very pale blue.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just such good doers. I couldn't more passionately recommend them.
No, they're really good.
So over to you for number 3.
Was something we absolutely wouldn't be without, Panicum Sparkling Fountain, which is a very delicate grass which will hold any container together.
Yeah,
and that's what I think of as the glue, really. You can have your pillars and your spillers, but you need that filler, and Panicum does it so well. I mean, it's great in the garden. It looks fabulous in a vase. It's just a really good grass to have in your containers. And it does, the thing about it is it'll reflower.
Yes.
Most grasses don't do that.
So true.
This has got nodes, hasn't it, up its stems.
Totally.
So if you take the top one off, it'll resprout and reflower. So it's worth every penny spent on that.
It really is. So my next one, I said I was going to mention Alstros. I have been blown away for certainly this year and last year with Alstroemeria Blushing Bride. And I have to admit, I have talked about this in a recent podcast because it just is such a fantastic plant. I talked about it with Tom. But yeah, I just find as a super reliable perennial container plant that just sits there from one year to the next. It's on just near our doorstep next to an abelia here. And it just flowers. It flowers from May until October. And Blushing Bride, it as it sounds, so it's sort of off-white with a sort of pink and green wash. Just superbly brilliant. I mean, do I not notice that you're deadheading it?
we pull.
You do pull it a bit.
Yes, we do pull the stems. We don't cut alströmerias.
No.
We pull them. They'll yellow after when they finished flowering, and we just pull them out, and the new ones will come through. So yeah, I'm glad you haven't noticed us doing that.
No, do you know I haven't? And the reason I haven't is that there's never a blank moment.
No.
So. And I am unbelievably sport and lucky that I do have gardeners here and things do happen without me noticing. But the thing with an Alstro, if you're growing it as a cut flower, is when you pull it, you then have a blank moment. But you do it so subtly that it just doesn't stop flowering genuinely from late May or early June right the way through until October. There isn't a sort of down, where the whole thing has been pulled. So it obviously gives this very good successional behaviour of flowering stems, which is helped along by the gardeners, but it's got that natural tendency. What a great plant. I really am crazy about it.
Yeah, and don't leave it too long to go to seed. So,
right.
Pull them some as soon as you can, for the vase.
Yeah.
And then those will start regrowing. So it gives it that
so
longevity.
don't let it run to seed yet.
No, not the whole lot. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, back to you, I think.
Something we wouldn't be without in pots is salvias. So probably the most remarked one this summer, remarked upon, was peach melba.
Yeah.
We had it in the rose garden on the main front area in front of the barn. Peach Melba is such a beautiful pinky colour. I don't know how to describe it really, but to see it, it's
very
fabulous.
soft, almost like sort of sunrise pink.
Peach, yes, yeah. And that's flowered until we've had to take it out to plant the bulbs. It was still flowering away, and it had started in May.
Yeah.
And the other salvia we plant a lot of is the Mystic Spires series.
Yeah, so good.
Really
so good.
Yeah, and they're blues, and they just keep going and going. And late towards the end of the year, they're still flowering. We have to take them out to get the bulbs in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're fabulous.
And the two pots that you've had on the barn steps here are Salvia Peach Melba with Panicum Sparkling Fountain.
Yes.
And Jonathan and I have photographed those several times because it's just been such a good combination. And to be honest, backlit, because that's sort of over to the east side of that kind of terrace in the rose garden there. And so they're backlit early in the morning, and we've got so many beautiful pictures of the sun sort of shining through those. And you've got the froth, the filler of the panicum.
Yeah.
And then the sort of, subtle bride, she's quite a quiet bride, but Salvia Peach Melba.
Yes.
Absolutely.
we did have Ipomaea Sweet Caroline as the spiller, but unfortunately eaten by the deer, so never really came into its own this year.
Okay, that's funny. I didn't know that. I hadn't noticed that was the plan.
Oh, well, I'm glad you didn't miss a spiller in there.
So number 6, I've banged on a bit too much, so I'm going to do this really quickly, but about the abelias, and Abelia grandiflora, which is a plant Josie gave me maybe 10 years ago. But I've been so obsessed with it that I suggested that we plant more. So we've been trialing different varieties, different cultivars. And when I was in France last winter or the winter before, I was in southwest France near Toulouse, and I went to this town square, and they had big containers of abelias in these pots, and they were still looking fantastic in December. So I took a photo and said to Josie, let's try abelias in pots. And she said, well, not grandiflora, it's sort of too big. But she then sourced one called Sherwoodii, and we have got that running along the little brick sort of plinth outside my workroom, my writing room. And those have been in flower just like grandiflora, probably since June, if not May. And they're just going over now. But they are pretty much evergreen. They're said to be a deciduous shrub, but they haven't dropped their leaves yet, and they're not, they've turned a beautiful colour, but they haven't dropped their leaves. So Abelia Sherwoodii, I think, is a plant to watch. It's really fantastic. And often, do you know what? But the French lead the way on container and sort of bedding schemes. I don't know why, but it was the first place I saw cleomes, for instance, and the first place I saw the Ipomaeas being used as cascaders or spillers in a pot. And I think that they're going to be very, very popular here. So be ahead of the curve and get an Abelia Sherwoodii to go in your pots for next spring and summer.
So I'm scaling it down to smaller plants now. Mm-hmm. So if you only got small pots, I would plant Nemesia.
Yeah.
They are amazing little plants. So a range of colours. Probably my favourite is Lady Ruby.
Yeah.
This Lady Lisa.
I love the navy and purple one. I'm trying to remember.
Denim, was it? Something like
Lady
that.
Lisa. That's Lisa.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yes. You're probably familiar with Wisley Vanilla, a very pale one. But the scent of Wisley Vanilla is fantastic.
Yeah, vanilla essence.
Yeah. So they tend to not like the heat of summer, so they'll flower well running up to midsummer. They'll have a rest, so just shear them back then. They'll be back in flower very quickly, and they'll go on into autumn, and you can overwinter them undercover. We just take ours into the polytunnel, cut them back, and in the polytunnel they'll be flowering March onwards probably. Really early they'll start again.
Do you remember our stand at Chelsea? Well, of course you will. 2 springs ago.
Yes, we had them.
We had them, Lady Ruby, on the shelves in our lovely shed.
Yeah.
And so many people didn't really know what they were and were sort of just amazed by them because they just were so showy for early in the year. And then, as Josie says, with all of them, if you cut them back, they'll flower again. So I've just been writing about nemesias actually, and I just think I've seen them wild in South Africa, and it made me really realise how durable and drought resistant and heat resistant they are when I saw them in the wild. And yeah, for me, they're kind of one of my new must-haves. I'm just mad about them, and we've got them in almost every colour now. We even had a yellow one on the lawn with a white brachyscum, and that was such a success.
Yeah, when we first saw it in the polytunnel, we were all a bit, not sure. But in the pot and it had the helichrysum with it, didn't it? The silver leaves.
Yes, and it looked lovely.
It just looked amazing.
Yeah, it really did. So my next one would have to be a dahlia, and I mean, there are so many good dahlias for pots. I mean, our long-standing favourite here is Totally Tangerine. And from that, we then bred Josie, which we actually saw in Holland this year, looking absolutely fantastic in the ground. So we're going to retrial it out of a pot and put it in the ground for next spring into summer. But I think probably if I was to name one new discovery of dahlia that I have loved in pots this year, it's Tom's Choice. And Tom's Choice, we had Josie planted in the Dutch yard with various different things, hibiscus, acetosla, mahogany, and the Ipamere again, and the Tumbergia, African Sunset. So I'm actually going to do my sort of last two together because they made such a fabulous combination. So Dahlia Tom's Choice with the lovely curling and climbing pillar of Tumbergia African Sunset. Those would be my 9 and 10. And that is just such a brilliant combination. And we've only just taken them out. So we're getting right to autumn turning into winter. And they've only just come out and they have looked superb from, well, certainly end of June, beginning of July. And so I couldn't more passionately recommend them. But those need to be in a bigger pot. So these are your sort of showstopper pots. So Dahlia Tom's Choice and Tumbergia African Sunset. And then, sorry, Josie, because I've left the final two to you. So number 11 and 12. Okay.
So I'm going for a spiller now for Beaners. The Enduroscape series are fantastic. We had a lot of Verbena Enduroscape Magenta this year.
Yeah.
And it just looked lovely in a pot on its own, combined with pelargoniums. Put it with anything, really. But it's a really, I don't know if it's to everyone's taste, really. It was quite a bright pink,
It's very
wasn't
strong,
it?
pink. I loved it.
Yeah. And then another one we've used a lot is Showboat Crimson, which again looks so lovely with so many things.
Well, that was the Enduroscape series were bred for French roundabouts.
Yes.
And it's just worth thinking about that. So they were bred for landscapers to plant just a mass over a roundabout or in a bedding scheme, a civic or town bedding scheme. And I first came across them, I think at Bull Colgrave at their showground, I don't know, maybe 10 summers ago or something. But so we've trialled them in lots of different colours. But Enduroscape Magenta we had on our kitchen terrace here this summer. And it was bright, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And boy, did it flower.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, but again, when I say this, sometimes Josie says, actually, we did do quite a lot of TLC on that. But as far as I could see, there wasn't that much TLC.
No, nothing was done with that all summer. We fed it a bit and, it's been flowering away.
Great.
Yeah.
So your final one, Josie.
So the final one is Cosmos Atrosanguineous Cherry Chocolate, which we trialled this year. We've had the plain chocolate before, but it's not so much a Cosmos, it's more like a Dahlia because it's got a tuberous root. So we had it in our pots that are under our arches. So the long toms had that in, and it was just spectacular. And it's got that lovely faint chocolatey scent. Yeah. It's flowered away all summer. It's just such a good plant.
Such a good plant.
Yeah, and we're going to try and overwinter it. So it was on trial, so we don't know how it'll behave. So we'll try and overwinter it.
Yeah.
Saves the little, it sort of has tiny tubers on it.
Right.
And see if we can get it through to next year, which hopefully we can talk about next year.
And actually, just to finish, if I was to pick one container collection or, a mixed pot in the whole of the garden this summer and autumn, And you've got to remember here, we probably have close to 500 pots now, but probably close to 100 big pots with different container collections on trial in any one year. And this would be my number one. So 2 of the things that Josie's mentioned, Cosmos, Atrosanguinea, Cherry Chocolate, with a newly bred dahlia called Happy Single Neon.
Yes.
Which is in the Happy Single series, but it's a new one in that series.
So short growing.
Short growing, perfect for a container. Yeah. And then the filler there was, again, the panicum. And it just looked good from the moment you planted it. So the tulips came out mid-May, and normally we shut the garden here mid-May to sort of mid-June because we do a complete pot changeover. But the moment you put those in, they actually, amazingly, were already pretty much in flower from the polytunnel.
Yeah.
And I mean, the grass had its leaves, but not its flowers. But it was just sensational. And it was sensational for 5 months. I counted the weeks and it was just amazing. So Cosmos Cherry Chocolate, the Happy Single Neon Dahlia, and the Panicum Frosted Explosion. And that is a good place to end because, if there's one pot collection that I would recommend for everybody to grow next summer, it would have to be that.
Definitely.
Thank you, Josie.
Okay.
Thanks so much for listening to Grow Cookie to Range, the podcast of me, Sarah Raven, with Josie Lewis. Next week, Arthur Parkinson will be back, and we're going to do a series of 3 episodes, all on, again, this theme of the 12 best. And the first one's going to be self-seeding, self-perpetuating perennials. The next is going to be low-maintenance perennials. And the third is going to be the 12 best plants for annuals and biennials that self-seed. So it's all about self-perpetuating gardening, which is something that Arthur is increasingly passionate about. So we're going to chat about our 6 favourites from him and 6 favourites from me. So I hope we'll see you then. You can find more information, photos and advice sheets on all the plants and recipes we talk about on this podcast by heading to the show notes or at sarahraven.com/podcast.